This preview is brought to you by Netflix. So I had a chance to both see a demo and get my hands on Infamous Second Son. This is the first big Sony release for 2014, and it's a franchise I've always had quite a bit of affection for. It's from Sucker Punch, who made the Sly Cooper series, and I'm always just so impressed how, even though in tone, style, look, in every way, it's so distinct from that classic platforming franchise, there's still kind of strange DNA from those games that you can see coming in, and it's no different in Infamous Second Son.
Here comes the Conduits. It's my call. Not yours, not ours, mine.
So the slice of game that we saw and we played is about a quarter of the way in, and the character Deslin, who you now play, it's a new character for the franchise. He is confronting someone else who also has powers, and in that confrontation, you're allowed to either corrupt the player or save the player. This is kind of the new way that they're looking at the good-evil split. And what this thing causes, depending on what you choose, is a mission that will be different depending on which path you decided to take. I took the evil path because I just can't help but do that when I play the Infamous games, and you have to kind of go on a rampage of destroying protesters who are not happy about you being a conduit and the other conduits that seem to be ruining Seattle. And it is Seattle, which I find very notable. The previous titles implied actual cities in America. Here it actually is the city of Seattle. What then proceeds, at least on the surface as you're looking at it right now, is very familiar to the Infamous franchise. But there are some very interesting gameplay tweaks that I think really do change things up and add a level of challenge and strategy that was missing from the previous iterations of the game. And that is, you have more than one power. The ones they were showing off were smoke and neon. But you don't sort of store those powers like on a weapon wheel. You have to swap them out by finding neon or by finding smoke. It's all around you. But when you're in the heat of battle, it's interesting to also have to be on the lookout for a different energy source that might change up your abilities strategically. And that really does add some challenge. You have to think, when is the right time to stop down? I'm gonna suck up some smoke because now I'm gonna use my smoke powers. And playing both, while there were some lateral similarities, they really did play quite differently. Smoke was something that allowed me to get into close quarters combat because you can dash and smack somebody on the head. And neon is closer to the classic electricity from the previous two Infamous games where you're playing from a ranged perspective. Once again, yes, there are things that look very similar to the previous Infamous games, but the level of detail and the number of enemies and just pedestrians and bad guys that are on screen is quite striking. And the pedestrians do add a very interesting touch to the gameplay. If you want to play good, or you don't want to play completely horribly evil, they're going to get in your way and you can really hurt them. And so there's certain tricks with the power that make that slightly easier. You do slow down a little bit if you're playing good, so you can try to go for the limbs rather for the head, and ideally avoid the poor schleps that seem to have found themselves in the middle of this kind of crazy superpowered battle. And with the enemies, it's these DUP officials, but there was quite a bit of variety, and that was another thing that I think plays some of the earlier Infamous games, is that you had kind of just those three classes of enemies. Here there are, once again, three classes, but between shields, those with powers that could kind of hold you in place, there was a lot more tension in that combat, rather than just trying to find every last enemy on screen and ping him in the head and then just move forward. There was one, I gotta say, big issue I had when playing the game, that especially with the neon powers, when you're playing from a ranged perspective, it didn't have the same oomph that I remember from the previous Infamous games. I've been mulling over this since I played it as to what could be the cause of it. And there might have been some sense of delay between hitting the button and seeing the neon come out and hit him in the head. But moreover, I think it was sound. There wasn't sound design that seemed to amplify what was happening on screen. That sense of oomph. And coming off of, say, playing a game like Titanfall, where I could not believe the sound design I was seeing, this one definitely felt a little, I would have to say, anemic in that. And sound does have some type of impact on sort of the gameplay in the sense of satisfaction, and maybe by just kind of boosting the volume, by putting it through a different mixer, that would resolve it. But I gotta say, it didn't have the same, I'm not going to say visceral because that's a horrible word, immediacy in the combat. That's one of the things I love the most about the Infamous series. Now, to be fair, this is a game that's very tough to kind of drop a player in a quarter of the way through and have them kind of fumble through the controls and remember how to play it to mastery, and it is not done yet. I think with just a little bit of work on the audio and maybe a touch more on the rumble, we can get back to that classic, incredibly satisfying feeling that I love about the Infamous franchise. Regardless, it's coming out at the end of March. It's a very good month, and I still can't wait to play it. All right, well, as we wait for our superpowers, there's an opportunity to watch people with superpowers with our sponsor, Netflix. With Netflix, you can stream TV episodes and movies directly to your home, saving you time, money, and hassle. It's also the only place to watch exclusive shows like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. Best of all, you can get a free trial membership and support Rev3 Games by signing up at netflix.com/Rev3Games.